A little slow today, guys. Thanks for bearing with me. Working through it. All right. Cool. We are live. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Let me get the PowerPoint up here, and we will get started. Cool. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Here we go. Okay. Here we go. All righty, welcome everybody to the UWSP Student Chapter of the Wildlife Society's General Member Meeting. As always, we've got a great one for you today, so thanks so much for coming. There are a few projects still doing some cool volunteer stuff, so if you guys want to get involved with that, you do have to pay some dues and fill out some membership forms. Dues are $5 for the semester, $8 a year, and as always, you can pay online through our PayPal at UWSP TWS or drop off cash from Mondays 11 to noon at the TNR office, wildlife office. And just a quick note, if you guys are using PayPal, make sure to use friends and family so you guys don't get assessed that fee.
Along with dues, we have a couple other things if you want to go out on projects. We have just a general membership form. You can fill it out even if you're not going on projects. Gives us a good idea of who's coming to meetings, who's part of the society. Then dues, like Nate said, and then hold harmless forms I sent out at the beginning of the semester. If you need that form, just send me an email and I can send you the form. And if you're not getting all of the fantastic emails from us, like job announcements and volunteer opportunities, all that fun stuff, you can join us on Spin and that'll automatically add you to our email list.
Awesome. Thank you, Melinda. Lizzie.
All right, our conservation topic this week is about this epic journey that a white-tailed deer recently went on. So this Missouri white-tailed deer sets out on the dispersion of the century. It traveled over 300 kilometers, which is about 186 miles, in less than a month. Literally, it like went from November 5th to and ended on Thanksgiving, which is kind of funny. But it's one of the largest recorded white-tailed deer dispersals. And it crossed an interstate and several state highways, all during hunting season. Like, didn't get hit by a car, didn't get shot. My slide disappeared, Nate.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Here we go. My gosh. There we go.
So this guy's really moving, and he's a survivor. Oh dear. Okay. We're good. And the most surprising thing about all of this is that this was an adult male. And, you know, usually the males do disperse more than the females, but they disperse when they're usually about like 1.5 years old, 1.5, not when they're a full-on adult. Usually they settle down and like kind of stay in their area when they're older. But this guy, he wanted to see the world for some reason. So the reason why they found that he was traveling so much is because this particular deer was actually a part of a larger study on deer movements in Missouri. So there was 700 other radio-collared deer, and it was just this guy who decided to take a hike. The average dispersal is only 2 to 24 miles, to give you some, you know, something to reference, and then he traveled 186 miles. But this could have some implications for disease spread, just because, you know, if he had CWD, he could have just taken that, you know, super far away to somewhere that, you know, maybe hadn't had CWD at all, or any other diseases. Like, it doesn't have to just be CWD. But they're also not sure if this is a, you know, 1 in 10,000 or like a 1 in 700, like the study was, or maybe just some freak of nature that took a hike. So with that, we can move on to the quiz bowl.
Oh my gosh. We are experiencing technical issues. Okay, is it advancing the slide? Oh my gosh. Okay, there we go.
All right. So what was the previously longest recorded dispersal of a white-tailed deer? This most recent study, this is like the longest recorded one. But what was the previous one? And then true or false, female deer are more likely to disperse farther than males. Nate, do you have the actual?
It is not going. Oh my gosh, guys.
No.
I'm so
Well,
sorry.
think about your answers, and then you'll be able to just.
Yes, yeah. Mentally input them, everybody. Oh my god. Okay, is it not launching? Because it's, oh man, we might just have to move on. It is not going for me. Oh my god.
Does someone want to take a few jabs in the chat?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
they
There
think
we go.
the answer is. I'm liking the jokes going on. All right, I'll just wait till someone gets the right answer. So, come on, people. All right, Mackenzie just got the first question right. Yeah, the longest recorded dispersal was in South Dakota of 131 miles. So that's still like, less than, or 50 less than our deer. But the reason why the one in South Dakota traveled so much was because it was looking for, cover, and it just didn't. It was like searching for the right habitat, so that's why it had to travel. And for the true or false one, does anyone else have any guesses? Female deer are more likely to disperse farther than males. All right, now we're getting a bunch of falses. Yes, false is correct. The males are more likely to disperse in general, and also just more likely to disperse farther. So there's your quiz bowl. Sorry we couldn't get you an actual quiz to fill in, but hope that you still learned something. And then we can move on to our mystery wildlife species. Should be a fun one. See if anybody knows it. Ooh, okay. Quinn, you got it. Yes. Chinese water deer. It similar to a musk deer, although apparently they're not that closely related. But in a second, Nate, we'll switch the slide if technology allows.
It's happening. It's happening.
All right, nice. The water deer, also known as Chinese water deer or Korean water deer, they're kind of two subspecies, but they're lovingly called the vampire deer because they quite literally have fangs. They don't have antlers, neither sexes do, but they have these tusks instead, and they're actually enlarged canine teeth. So in the males, the bucks, they're 2 to 3 inches long, whereas in the females, they're only like half an inch long, so a lot less noticeable in the females, just like, our bucks and does of white-tailed deer. But and in terms of antlers, our white-tailed deer do not have fangs, but they can actually move these teeth with their facial muscles. So when they're eating, they like pull them back and in so that it doesn't get in the way of their mouth. But then during the rutting season, the males will like push them out and up so that they'll then attack each other with these fangs and like just try to like gouge out flesh and make each other bleed until one of them gives up, which sounds really painful. And I'm glad that I don't have to do that. But surprisingly, they rarely die when they're rutting, because the male usually just gives up and he'll either walk away or probably run away, or he'll like lay his head down as a form of submission. So they're native to China and Korea, but they've also been introduced a little bit in Britain and France. Kind of hope no one wants to introduce them into America because they're a little strange looking, honestly. That skull is super bizarre. All right, and we're still selling buttons. $1 each or 3 for $3. Come to Nate's office hour from 11 to noon in TNR 359A. So you can get the whole set of buttons. Just stop on over.
Awesome. Thank you, Lizzie.
All right, guys, it's time for our Mystery Wildlife Member Spotlight. And this week, it's going to be Everly Elding. And I was actually going to put a video on here, but I think it'd be more interesting for you guys. So she's from Iowa. I think if I remember that straight. Am I right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of cool facts. Clearly, she's into birds. But I think the coolest one was that she rescued a goose. And if I'm not incorrect, I bet you could find that on her YouTube channel. Wow. right?
So cool.
It
Probably
was really cool.
probably the coolest thing I've recorded for sure.
Yeah, I would have been super stressed. If you follow her on Instagram, her YouTube is in her like what's it called? What's the word? Description?
Biography?
Her biography. It's right up there. But if you want to check that out, she has some pretty funny other videos. But the goose one is like really cool. Handled it way better than I would have if I came upon a goose that was tangled up in some fishing wire. But yeah, I didn't go crazy with the animations this week, and I'm kind of glad I didn't. Nate seems to be having those. I'm taking it easy. I just have a couple things. But Everly, are you going to Ecuador this summer? Isn't that true as well?
Yeah, so I got this really cool internship in Ecuador, and I will be banding tropical birds. And I'm actually kind of nervous because the worst bite I've ever gotten was from a cardinal, but I feel like a toucan could probably take my finger off. So hopefully that does not happen, but I am really looking forward to it, and it should be really awesome.
That's amazing. Guys, you should definitely follow her on Instagram. I bet she'd follow you back, and then you can see those cool bird pics from this summer, I bet. So
Awesome.
That's what I got.
Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Everly, for being an awesome member. Moving on, we have Tide.
Hello, everyone. So we had our first meeting, our first Tide meeting last week after the TWS meeting. It was very successful. Thank you to all of you who came. If you didn't come, you're still welcome to join. We would love to have you. Definitely don't feel scared or nervous to come to like a future meeting or anything, even if you feel like you don't know anything about the subject or you don't have anything to contribute, like you definitely do, and we want your feedback no matter what. So don't be shy to show up. Basically, our last meeting, we kind of talked about some ideas that we have for the group and how we want to see it moving forward. And we're going to keep planning. We're still kind of in the planning phases, but we're going to keep doing that. We think we're going to invite faculty to our next meeting to kind of get some input from them as well. And yeah, you'll definitely be hearing some more updates. I'll turn it over to Melinda.
Yeah, so we didn't have super high attendance last week. So maybe that's because people were sick of sitting on Zoom all day, which I totally get. So we're gonna send out a quick survey in the chat. We'll send it out in an email after the meeting. Just you can add your email if you want to get specific Tide emails, and it'll just be asking when you're free, when works well for everybody to have Tide meetings, so we can try to pick a time that works for the most people. So we can have everybody come who wants to. So I will put that in the chat, and you can fill it out, and it'll help us out a lot.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Super cool opportunity. Moving on. Brylan.
So the Wisconsin Conservation Congress and the Wisconsin DNR have their annual spring hearing going on right now. This is an important survey that gets input from the public and that helps the DNR and the Natural Resources Board plan regulation changes for the upcoming year. So it's really encouraged that you guys all fill out the survey and provide that input to just get involved with some important decision making in natural resources. So that opened up last night and it will be available on their website until Thursday at 7 p.m. So if you want to check out that survey, you can just search Wisconsin DNR spring hearing and it'll pop up right there.
Awesome. Thank you, Brylan.
And then the Adopt Wildlife Area project is going to eventually have some snapshot photos to classify. So if you want to experience the Buena Vista Wildlife Area from the comfort of your own home and have some interest in looking at cool animal photos and working on your animal ID, I will send out a sign-up sheet after the meeting that you can sign up, and we'll get you on a list to hopefully be classifying pictures in the near future.
Super cool. Thanks so much, Brylan. Woodpecker project.
So the Woodpecker Project is accepting 2 new co-leaders for next semester. Freshmen and sophomores are really encouraged to apply. It's a great way to get involved right away here at UWSP. We trap, process, handle, and band different woodpeckers and also white-breasted nuthatches. We go out the first part of the spring semester from Friday evening to Sunday evening at Sand Hill Wildlife Area. And we're accepting applications until the 30th of this month, and you can email me or Grant with any questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. And Woodpecker Project. Woodcock Project.
All right, folks, the Woodcock Project is also looking for 3 new co-leaders, as a bunch of us are graduating this semester. So I will send out an application right after this meeting, and it will be due Friday, April 23rd at 5 p.m. And this project is mostly a spring project. It'll be a little bit of woodcock banding and then also some habitat management down at Sand Hill. So you can go ahead and email those completed applications to Sean Burns, whose email is on the slide, and it'll also be in the application too. So yeah, I encourage everyone, any grade, to apply.
Awesome. Thank you, Woodcock Project. Flying Squirrel Project. Any folks here for Flying Squirrel? If not, I can make a quick note. They're looking for co-leaders. Due date for those applications is coming up. It was sent out in an email. So if you just probably search Flying Squirrel, you should see an email from me with the application. So super cool opportunity. Moving along.
All right, and then if you are a captive wildlife miner, or if you're just interested in getting some hands-on experience with captive wildlife, the Herpetology Society has a position as a lab manager. I'm one of them. There's the 410 lab, which you might not be as familiar with as the vivarium. You could work down there too. All of the applications are due April 16th. We don't need a resume, I don't believe. We do have applications, but yeah, so it's a paid internship, and if you're looking for internship credits, it also counts for that. You can email me with any questions. I know the role, and you could also ask Sandy LeBake, who is our advisor. Her email is right here on the slide if you're interested.
Awesome. Thank you, Danny. Shelby.
Hello, everyone. If you have any cool wildlife photos, you can send them in to be featured for this week's Fauna Friday. And you can send those in by DMing our Instagram page or by emailing me, and my email is up there on the slide. And then you can follow our student chapter on social media. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, even add us on Snapchat. And our meetings are also recorded, so if you ever miss one, you can find those recordings on our website and our YouTube channel.
Awesome. Thank you, Shelby. So since you guys have got a couple announcements on this, I'm not going to go through all the information, but a quick reminder that elections are just 2 short weeks away. So just a reminder, get those applications in. This is an awesome way to get involved in the chapter and be a vital role of how it runs. So hope to see some of your applications in soon. But without further ado, tonight we have Hannah White coming back. She's a TWS alum and now a wildlife biologist for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service in Alaska. So I will not take any more of your time, Hannah, and the rest is yours. Thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thanks, Nate. Let's see if it's not letting me share my screen.
Okay, there we go.
Just figured I'd continue with the technical issues.
Try now. Try now.
All right. So, not sure what that box means, so I'm going to check it. All right, one sec. And boom. How are we doing? Good?
Looks good.
All right, so yeah, fasten your seatbelts, everyone. This is gonna be, I'm gonna try to cram this all into 35 minutes. Okay. So yeah, as Nate said, I graduated from Point in 2013. And now after a lot of ups and downs and field work, I landed in Alaska. So let's, spoiler alert, this is what I'm going to talk. I'm just going to talk a little bit about, you know, I guess some generally how my career path has gone, and then some lessons that I've learned along the way. So we'll start off with, as we go through this presentation, we'll connect all these dots together. But we're gonna start off first with just, you know, this is the Wildlife Society. So yeah, when I was at Point, it's great to see how many people are in this meeting, because when you're just starting out, like these volunteer opportunities, you know, without the Wildlife Society, it would have been harder than it already is to get those first few jobs. So definitely recommend going out on as many projects as you can, or, you know, anything that you're interested in. Even just like one outing to have on your resume to, you know, you never know what you're going to get asked in an interview or what positions are going to come up. So yeah, that's kind of a theme through this whole presentation, is just like seize whatever opportunities you can, because all of your experience will build on itself. So, yep. So while I was in TWS, you know, after I'd been at Point for a few semesters, I decided to take the leap and be a co-leader on the Bobcat project. So that was basically just doing telemetry every other week with members. I was also a secretary for a year, I think it was back then. And then aside from TWS, which was awesome, I also worked at Tree Haven 2 summers in a row. So I was a teaching assistant there. And again, like it was just a silly, you know, 6-week teaching assistantship thing, but it's amazing how like these seemingly unimportant jobs come up in interviews. So, and then yeah, I had to get my CDL to drive buses, to be a stocker manager, my second summer there. So last thing about the Pointer years is, if you have the opportunity to study abroad, I would say go for it. I was really on the fence. It was like my last semester. I only had one winter term left, and I didn't really know if I could afford it. But ultimately, I decided, you know, I already have like thousands of dollars in debt. Let's just tack this on to the rest of the loans. So yeah, I guess I would just say, if you have the opportunity and you're interested in it, go for it. It's worth the money. So with that, about to graduate from Point. So pictured here on the left is my undergraduate advisor, Dr. Tim Jeanette, who's retired now. But how everything is linked together. So he was one of the field trip leaders, I guess, at Costa Rica, in addition to being my advisor. So because of those connections, I was able to, you know, I was invited to go bear denning with him and in Clam Lake, Wisconsin. So again, this experience came up, you know, it's just one weekend, but this experience came up in future job interviews. So actual field tech after, you know, the real world, sort of after school. So I march on up here to, if you see that little arrow, Crex Meadows Wildlife Area. This is my first real wildlife job, as a wildlife management intern with the DNR. We did all sorts of stuff. It was me and one other intern. We pretty much worked hand in hand together every day. Spent a lot of time unclogging beaver dams from water control structures. So yeah, they're industrious little buggers. Like 2 or 3 days after this picture, I'm sure it was clocked back up again. But and actually, I should mention, I didn't even give any backstory. So I'm in an airplane in this photo because my intern project was to estimate beaver population at Crex Meadows, which is like 33,000 acres. So we were looking for beaver caches in the fall. Again, this job gave me lots of random experience. It was a great jumping off point, I guess, for my wildlife career. We did songbird surveys, woke up with the crack of dawn and did this for a couple weeks. I was not a good birder. I'm still not a good birder, but I like to try. So again, this helped me get another job like 3 years after this. So kind of butterfly surveys, here's just some random stuff we did. Me on the left again, unclogging a water control structure. And then just some invasive species, monitoring and control on the bottom there, and then waterfowl banding, which is always fun. And then last here, it's not all about touchy-feely, like hanging out with the critters, although that is preferred. A lot of wildlife management, as you well know, is actually habitat management and land management. So we spent a lot of time on, this summer, me and my intern buddy, herbicide application, controlling woody debris. We got tractor certified, super random, for food plots. And then the very glamorous job in the lower left there of mowing the rest area. And then, yeah, just like, that's a picture of me shoveling gravel out of the back of a truck. So all experience is good experience. So I went back to Point, graduated, and I had 1 semester left. I graduated in December. And then I got my first job with my bachelor's as a prairie chicken technician. So I was actually working for Dr. Riddle, who you all know, for his graduate student, Matt. So, gosh, look at these crazy birds. They're my favorite. Okay. But like I said, I don't think I would have gotten this job if, I hadn't volunteered on the, the prairie chicken project or whatever it was called back then. So at this point, I really only had like 1 real job under my belt. So seize those opportunities. So there's a couple things we'll kind of walk you through the 6 months. In April, basically, we trapped Lex. We were trying to get collars on hens so that we could monitor their nests. And then we would do telemetry, and then we would walk in on their nest. In the lower right there, that's a successful nest that was hatched. Before they hatched, we would float the eggs, which is actually surprisingly accurate. Like within 3 days, you could estimate hatch dates. And then in the upper left, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a little black eye button there for Matt to monitor the temperature when the hen was on or off the nest. And I heard you guys mentioning Buena Vista Grasslands. That's where this was. So this was my office for those 6 months. And when those nests hatched, we would monitor the broods. So in this left picture here, if you squint, that's actually a hen and her babies. So when they're really young like that, this was probably a 7-day a brood flush. When they're really young like that, they have no defense. So the hens hold really tight. Flushing is their absolute last resort. So it let me get some really cool photos. But yeah, so we were just basically counting every week to see how many were still alive. And then once I got old enough, a little bit bigger on the right there, you can see Matt holding, I don't know how old that is, Matt, 3 weeks or something, I don't know. But they both of those birds, it's hard to see, but they have collars on them. So then again, just monitoring survival. We had to recapture and put bigger collars on later. But all right, so that job was awesome. And then I marched on up. They got really lucky actually. My DNR supervisor, while I was working with prairie chickens, after that was done, he basically called me or emailed me and said, we need a telemetry technician for a few months. You want to do it? And I mean, it was pretty much just a godsend. I was like, yep, I'm doing it. So that's what I did for 6 months, more telemetry. I tracked like 50 deer a week in northern Wisconsin. So yeah, no cell service. It was in the Chequamegon, working by myself every day. It was pretty straightforward job, but great experience. And this job helped me get one of my other favorite jobs that you'll see in a couple slides. Another little move on over, still in Wisconsin. When that was done, I got a job as something I'd always wanted to do, small mammal trapping. So I was a small mammal lead tech for NEON, National Ecological Observatory Network. So this is a trap happy mouse. And like 5 minutes after I walked away, I heard it snap again. But anyway, so we did do small mammal trapping, as you can see here, but we did a lot of other stuff too. So again, this is another job where a lot of like random little experience opportunities throughout the summer. So this was the second year of a 30-year project. So we did a lot of just hiking out, flopping down the Trimble and just waiting, standing there for like 5-10 minutes, waiting for it to collect waypoints. So, I mean, getting paid to hike around in the woods is not too shabby. Some less desirable protocols that we did. Tick drags, as you can see in the lower left, pretty pumped that we finally got one in that. That's a deer tick. And then beetle sampling. And then we'd go back to the lab and ID them. And last slide here for this job was just there's a lot of other random plant surveying type work that we did. So coarse woody debris measurement in the lower left. And on the right that's a litter trap. So basically catch falling leaves and stuff. And then the really fun job in the upper right of sorting the litter and then weighing it. It would get dried and weighed for biomass. And this job, different from my previous jobs, we actually was not working independently. You were always with somebody, and there was like 18 field techs that summer. So this is one of the definite benefits of field work is just all the different people that you meet along the way. All right, so now I'm finally gonna take the leap out of Wisconsin. So I bopped on over to Pennsylvania, and I was actually here for 1.5 years. This was one of my favorite jobs. Wildlife biologist aide or deer crew lead for the Pennsylvania Game Commission. This is my winter trapping crew and the summer fawning crew. So like I said, previous, like going out on the deer project with the Wildlife Society, rocket netting while I was at Crex Meadows. These are all, all the telemetry work, all kind of fed into me being able to get this job. So, yeah, so in the winter we would trap deer, set up clover traps, and so this is a fawn, or previous year's fawn. And basically we just put ear tags in them and take a tissue sample, and everybody has a job too, so that we can get the deer processed as soon as possible. And then if it's a doe, as you can see in this big pregnant mom on the upper left there, the deer, not me, you can see the vit in the center there, which is basically a radio transmitter cartridge that goes you know where. And then in the lower left, there is a GPS collar that is linked to that transmitter. So when the mama goes and has her baby fawn in the spring, we get an email that says that there's been a birthing event. So, and then we walk in, find the fawn and put ear tags in it, yada, yada. So, and then this is just a recapture, so pretty easy. We just read the ear tag and let it go. That deer actually was like 7.5-year-old doe from a previous study before we got there. So that was pretty cool to see. Aside from clover trapping, we also rocket netted deer. So this is me sitting in a tree stand. And you can see the deer kind of like working up the courage to go up to the corn on the net there. And then my backup is coming now. Like watching this video, I can get like the adrenaline from this night. But so yeah, that was another way that we trapped deer. For us, it was less successful than clover trapping, and it takes a lot more time investment, but still fun. So also no deer were harmed in the making of any of these videos, if anybody's concerned about that. And then everybody's favorite job in the spring in between deer trapping and fawning was poo patrol. Look how stylish I am right there. I'm just rocking that fanny pack and the socks tucked in. So we had about 100 transects, just like a rectangular loop that we would walk following the GPS. And yeah, collect deer poop. So they would do DNA analysis on it and compare it to the tissue samples from the deer that we captured in the winter. And then in the summer, like May, June, mostly we would look for fawns. Opportunistically here in the photo, we're just kind of walking a field looking for fawns bedded down. The one of me and the fawn in the picture with me was a fawn that we found from a bit expulsion from a doe. You can see the ear tags, kind of those little white circles are big old ears. So that that fawn is special because it was the latest fawn we ever found. It was born on July 2nd. So that's pretty late, and unfortunately, I think that one was predated upon. It was pretty late to be a fawn, so they're to be born as a fawn. Aside from all the awesome deer stuff we did, there was also a bear bioaid, which is similar to my job, only he focused on bears, and he was also working in our study area. So when we had time, we'd go and help him out. And in the winter, we had the awesome opportunity to see that adorable little cub in the right. So again, just random opportunities. And there was also an elk bioaid, so I had to go out and this elk in particular was darted, and you can see in the left photo, that's a video collar, which I had never heard of, and I don't know of any other studies. I don't think it's super common, but I think they were looking at like what he was eating or something. I don't know. It's weird, but yeah, it was a great opportunity, once in a lifetime almost. So I think last one here for Pennsylvania was another random outing. Some bat biologists with the Game Commission invited me out to go bat banding. So as you know, bats aren't doing super well. So this was a special opportunity that I enjoyed. So let's move on. So now I drive 3 days out to Oregon, where I was a sage grouse and raven technician, and raven is in quotations because it ended up basically just being, well, it ended up being like a songbird technician, because turns out ravens are very smart and very hard to catch. So I didn't actually do anything with ravens this summer, but technically that was my job title. Nest monitoring, again, so this job, I would not have gotten this job if I hadn't had the prairie chicken job. They were very analogous to one another, just different grouse species. So the same thing, we did captures in spring, Then we did nest monitoring and brood monitoring, except all the babies died, so there were no broods to monitor, or the hens flew off and we couldn't find them because they were not GPS collars. So this is pretty much what my life looked like that summer. You see that little white dot right below point counts? That's my truck, and this is a point that I hiked out to, and that's a songbird recorder. So yeah, this was my life. I just would go out, do a point count. I don't even know. I think it was like a 7-minute point count, and it probably took an hour and a half to get out to it. But again, getting paid to go to places way out in the boonies that not a lot of other people get to go to. So, and the elusive baby ravens that taunted me, drove past this windmill a lot. But all right, so by some miracle, I got accepted into grad school in Illinois, despite my like borderline average GRE scores. So it was a great project. It was looking at a threatened species in Illinois, which doesn't really narrow it down. Pretty much everything is threatened in Illinois. But Blanding's turtles, I did learn my first exposure to R coding, which is still not like really my friend, but I retook Intro to GIS during my 2 semesters there, and that pretty much changed my life, I would say. I had taken Intro to GIS while I was at Point, but you know, when you're an undergraduate and you're taking like 15 to 18 credits and you're involved in TWS and all this other stuff, it's like you don't really have the time to fully devote to learning. It's like I got an A in Intro to GIS at Point and I learned nothing. Like I retained none of it. So I was determined to redeem myself because I just kept hearing people say GIS is a great skill, and I did not have that skill at the time. So I have a master's in GIS now, but this was really the time when I had time to delve in and realize that I really enjoyed it. However, yeah, that pretty much all came crashing down. I'm laughing because if Matt's on this call, he's well aware of this. But yeah, so as you know, grad school is stressful. And I just kind of had this sinking feeling both semesters while I was at Illinois that it wasn't a great fit for me. I never really wanted to do a thesis master's, but that's what you do, right? So that's what I was going to do. I was just going to tough it out and get my degree and move on. But yeah, I'll spare you the details. Basically, after 2 semesters, you know, I went through and wrote like my 15-page research proposal, and yeah, I just reached a breaking point and ended up going back to Oregon. So I basically asked I had a talk with my advisor and just asked for a leave of absence to basically think things through. So that's what I did. I ended up, while I was having my little like midlife crisis, mental breakdown, a friend of mine, one of my coworkers from the previous summer in Oregon, he messaged me and was just like, oh, one of my techs just quit. And I was like, I'll take it. I'm coming back. So within like a matter of 5 days, I had like uprooted my entire life, basically dropped out of grad school and threw my cat in the car, and we drove 3 days back to Oregon to live in a trailer in the middle of absolute nowhere in the desert. And it was awesome. I got paid to drive a 4-wheeler around every day and creep on these awesome birds, So we did brood monitoring a little differently for the 7-week. We basically did a walk-in. You can see her GPS transmitter there. Sorry, I got mesmerized. So we would hike in again, like we'd wake up at 2:30 in the morning, drive out like 45 minutes, get the four-wheeler, it's dark, get the four-wheeler off the back of the truck. Also working by yourself in the middle of nowhere, no cell service. And you had to get out to these birds and get the camera set up basically like by dawn. So, but it was worth it. Like this video is just, I could watch this all day. But anyway, yeah, so you can count the chicks, there's 2 of them. Done. So that was, again, lots of telemetry on that job. It was basically everything that I wanted to do the previous summer, but we actually had broods survive. So the second go around was pretty great. And I got to drive a 4-wheeler every day, which is really fun. So my midlife crisis, I ended up, so while I was in Oregon, I applied to the University of Minnesota. They had a non-thesis GIS program, which generally I feel like non-thesis programs are looked down upon, but at this point I didn't care. So, and I wouldn't know if I was going to get accepted or not until like October. They couldn't give me anything. But Illinois needed an answer by August. You know, like they need to know if I'm coming back. So I took a leap of faith and just said, well, I hope I get accepted. And I formally withdrew from Illinois, which some people would say was crazy. That was a fully funded master's program. They were paying me and my tuition was waived. So it was a great setup. But ultimately, yeah, you got to do what's best for you. So low point of my career, I was dead broke, waiting to find out if I was going to get accepted to this master's program. This is basically back home, by the way. I should mention this is where I'm from. So I moved back home, just kind of like in limbo. Like I said, no money. I worked at the Minnesota State Fair, desperate times, people. I think they were paying me like $9 an hour to move a gate back and forth. And then I worked for UPS, which I actually really enjoyed, but again, not related to wildlife at all. I think this was like Black Friday or Cyber Monday on the right there. Yeah, I'm getting like trauma flashbacks as I look at that. But anyway, like I said, you gotta do what you gotta do. But I ended up getting into the University of Minnesota. And yeah, so the master's GIS program, it was non-thesis, but I did have an independent study. So just like a lot less intensive and stressful than a thesis. But so this is my independent study. It was remote sensing, mapping forested wetlands with basically, yeah, hydrologic modeling. So that was a point cloud. And this is just showing you an aerial image, but if you pull back, you can see this is where water accumulates, all those light areas. So forested wetlands are hard to map from if you just use aerial imagery. But by including that topographic indice, we had a lot higher accuracy and we could pull out those hidden forested wetlands from the study area. So that was that. And then just some other random, it was a lot of coursework based. So I, kind of got into the nitty gritty of like ArcGIS Pro and QGIS and what, the real capabilities. So this is just a map that I made, and we were supposed to make, I think, just like a highway map. So I decided to do a little whimsical spin, and I was like, well, I'm gonna make a treasure map. So I think, yeah, and I made like $50 off it. I entered it in like the annual MGIS mapping competition or something. So anyway, also in 2019, my first semester in grad school, I was like, I need to get an internship. I need to get an internship. So I did. And I worked for a solar company in downtown Minneapolis. And this was my life. I just stared at satellite imagery and looked for power lines and transmission stations, which is about as exciting as it sounds, probably less. So the right picture there is a solar field, solar garden, whatever you want to call it. So needless to say, I was in the market for a new job. So that summer, I just went a couple hours south and I got a job with who I work for now, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, through the DFP, Directorate Fellow Program, which is a great program, and they hire every year. So I don't know, I think that's how I got linked up with Dr. Riddle again. I think I forwarded him that email last December or something. So highly recommend if you're interested in working for the service, the Fish and Wildlife Service. It is a great way to get your foot in the door because once you graduate, you have basically a free job waiting for you somewhere. It's like, what do they call it? Direct hire authority. So anyway, yeah, I did a Lake Sturgeon GIS internship. That's a Lake Sturgeon, as I'm sure you deduced. This is a GoPro video. So let's look at what we're doing. My job was wanted to map the substrate and figure out, we knew that sturgeon are in these lakes. We're trying to figure out like why. This is in northern Minnesota. So strap a GoPro onto this really long pole and string here. And we've got it hooked up to an iPad with a live Wi-Fi feed. And that's how we could see the live stream of, for example, this video. So that was the fieldwork portion. And then back in the office, so we did sonar scans on the lake. So you can see the raw sonar image on the left. And then just digitizing what the substrate is. And so the GoPro is basically just checkpoints to validate that what I'm seeing in the sonar image is actually correct. So yeah, we got vegetation, sand, and fine sediment. So that was a great job. I went back to University of Minnesota and graduated and then got a job here, which is where I'm calling in from now, Anchorage, Alaska. So technically my title is wildlife biologist, but I don't really do a lot of what you would think of a wildlife biologist doing. I don't work at a refuge, like monitoring or surveying wildlife. I am a data management technician. So right now, the project I'm focused on is archiving historical refuge documents. So as there was just an example there of some old pictures I dug up from the 50s from a refuge. But to keep me sane, my boss throws me a bone now and then. So I'm also helping on some GIS work, side projects, I guess. So you might know, you're probably familiar if you've done GIS work. The National Wetlands Inventory is, even though it was like done in the 80s, it's pretty much our best source of wetlands data. However, in Alaska, all of those light gray areas in that map have not even been mapped, which is crazy. So just helping with that project a little bit, and then some other, that's Arctic National Wildlife Refuge in the lower left. Just, again, random side project, simplified refuge boundaries, just busy work, but it's in GIS, so I do it, I like it. So with that, I can't believe I actually might come in under time. I'm so worried I was gonna go over. All right, so yeah, some lessons learned. Number one, don't listen to me or anything. I mean, advice is great, but like take everything with a grain of salt. You know, what worked for me, for example, is not going to be the same as like maybe you don't want to do field work, and that's perfectly fine. So I guess just don't compare yourself to others. Like, advice is great, but everyone's gonna have different advice. Yes. So I never really had a plan. I just applied to jobs that seemed interesting. And then just kind of like see where that takes me. And it worked out pretty well. However, as you saw, my little midlife crisis episode, plans don't always go to plan. So with that said, there's always a silver lining. Like, even, like that Oregon job, or even though that master's program didn't work out, it still gave me an opportunity to learn how to code a little bit in R. And it gave me the opportunity as like basically my launching pad for GIS. So even though it didn't work out in that, and as far as graduating, it was a great experience. And same thing with like the Raven project. The job was not at all what I expected, but it helped me get another job the following summer. So anyway, yes, silver lining. Like when you're hiking through a thick blackberry bush and you're like, I'm getting paid, or I'm doing this voluntarily, or I'm getting paid like nothing for this. Like, it could be worse. Yeah, and sort of in the same line of thought there, it's okay to fail. Like, again, there's things to learn from that. And I don't know, my philosophy has always been like, it'll always work out. So, and it's worked out for me. Like 2018 was my midlife crisis. Yeah, it's been like 2.5 years, and things worked out. So last thing I'll say is putting together this presentation from my like teleworking office location has really made me realize that fieldwork is awesome. And even though you're getting paid like next to nothing, considering like you have a degree, I miss those days a lot. So just enjoy where you're at while you're there. And with that, I think we got like 2 minutes to spare. So yeah, thanks a lot for having me. And I guess if there's, I don't know, a lot of people probably have to run, but I'll take any questions if you have them.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Hannah. Thanks for coming back. So yeah, as always, guys, feel free to type questions in the chat. Otherwise, if you guys want to unmute and ask Hannah that way, totally fine.
Oh my gosh, I'm like trying to get my Zoom up. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, round of applause. Thank you, Hannah. Appreciate you coming in. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Super cool.
Yep.
I'll ask a fun question. Do you wear extra tops in Alaska? Have they converted you?
I was warned ahead of time that I needed to buy some. So to be culturally accepted, yes, I do have some. That's funny. Nice to see you, Jason. Haven't aged today.
It's good to see you. Thanks for coming and telling your story. So many of us have these curvilinear stories where we ended up doing things or working in places that we never expected. So
yeah,
always comforting to hear that somebody else had some forks in the road too.
All right. Oh, there are.
Yeah, there's some questions rolling in. You can see the chat.
Yeah, I'm not answering that question. That's my brother, Brandon. You don't need to know. Mind your own funds. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, cool.
I guess if you have any like burning questions, you can also just email me to, it's just, yeah. Hannah_White at FWS. So
I guess I have another question. What made you interested in starting to like get involved with GIS then? Because you said when you were undergraduate, you weren't interested at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I was not, like, I took intro to GIS, it was required, but I was not good at it. And it was just like, I took it online, and at that point it was like 2 credits, and I just like went through the motions, got an A, and didn't learn anything. So I guess it just kind of kept coming up in jobs. Like, do you have GIS experience? Or I would hear people say like, there's a lot of GIS jobs, which I don't know if that's true, but, and I just kept kind of feeling like this nudge, like, man, like I wish I had learned something in that. And so it's kind of this how I am with R right now. I'm still trying to redeem myself. I'm taking an intro to R class right now, trying to like conquer it. But so then when I was in my graduate program, I took intro to GIS, and I don't know, just something like, it just like came easily to me. I don't know. I feel like whatever it is you're meant to do, like you shouldn't have to like, it shouldn't be a struggle, which like that thesis master's program was like this mental struggle. So I don't know, but I don't know if that answered your question, but.
Yeah, it did. Thank you.
Alrighty, guys. If there's no more questions, thank you one more time, Hannah. Appreciate you coming in. That is the end of the meeting, so I will